Dear We Dance contestants, Lamont and Melissa Simmons, listen, on November 6th, we're hitting the dance floor doing the merengue and the waltz to raise money for Women Empowered International,
a nonprofit organization that inspires women worldwide to fulfill their dreams as well as encourages them to give back to local and global communities.
We hope you'll support us by watching and giving.
Hey, everybody. It is FEM Talk Tuesday, you guys. We are back for another episode of FEM Talk, and we are talking tonight about women's health, women's mental health. But before we do, did you guys see that wonderful commercial with our very own Mimi and her wonderful husband? Well, you guys, listen, they are going to be doing a dance competition on November 6th, and we want you guys to join us. So please go to this link here, mobilecause.com, FVF, We Dance /team/Lamont Melissa. You guys, join us. It's going to be a lot of fun. Donate to the cause. This is for Women Empowered International. You guys have heard us talking about Women Empowered and all of the wonderful things that they do. So support our very own Melissa Simmons. All right, you guys, Girl Bossed Up is going to be doing her thing. All right. So, and we will show this again a little bit later so you guys can get this link and go on and get your tickets because we want to see you there. So without further ado, you guys, I'm going to bring in the beautiful ladies of FEM Talk for this wonderful Tuesday night. Here we go. We have Brandy the Connector.
Good evening.
Hey, Brandy. We have Melissa, Girl Bossed Up.
Hey,
Mimi. We're ready to see you dance. And we've got our very own Shima. She talks. We can't hear you, Shima.
I was so excited to speak. I muted myself. Hey, FEM Talkers.
Hey, everybody.
We starting early.
Yes, so it looks like we have our Aunt Jeanette out there. Hey, Aunt Jeanette, for you guys that don't know, that is she's mommy and my beautiful aunt. Yes, it is. We love her. Thank you for supporting us tonight, Aunt Jeanette. We have got Kathy Anderson. Kathy, we love you too, Kathy. Kathy is always on here and always engaged. Thank you for joining us again tonight, Kathy. All right, here we go. So you guys, tonight we are talking about women's health again, and we're talking about mental health, and we're going to have a very special guest join us a little bit later in the show. But before we get going, we wanted to give you some hot topics. So you guys, listen, there is a beautiful young woman out there who is doing her thing, making some waves, and our very own Mimi is going to talk to you about her. Take it away, Mimi.
yes, I follow. I love women's sports, and with Girl Bossed Up, I'm all about us going out there and breaking that glass ceiling. Mm-hmm. I'm so excited for our Dawn Staley. She is the highest paid women's basketball collegiate coach out there, 22 million plus. And I'm excited because it's finally taken that turn that so many women coaches deserved a long time ago. Mm-hmm. You could talk about UConn and those women coaches, and you could just go on and on with all the brilliant people that's been out there. And it's been a long time coming where you see some equivalent paid women coaches out there who are representing, and it doesn't have to be basketball. We know there's been a lot of talk around women's soccer, the players and the coaches and what they're making in comparison to the men players and coaches, who actually the women bring in more gate, more money than the men's soccer and U.S. sports. I'm just saying. And it's so exciting to see this woman go there. But just as a little twist, even though she's making 22 plus million, which is you do that, Dawn. However, she's still way behind what the top 10 and what many of the men collegiate basketball coaches make. I mean, they go as high as almost $90 million, 70 million, 60 million with, again, and she's bringing in just as much. Her stadiums are just as packed as the men college basketball teams. And she's bringing in just as much gate and just as much reputation to that college. I'm glad they finally stepped up and gave her what she deserved, but we still aren't there as women and as women in sports. So we still have a long way to go, but kudos to her to stand tall and stand strong in South Carolina, making that deal with her, because finally, I think now that this has started, other women and other coaches in various fields in women coaching is going to now, stand their ground and wait for their true payment to come. Equality in payments of sports. So
kudos to her for paving the way, number one. And I would like to see the day too when the women are coaching the men, right? We know just as much about the sport, right? And it shouldn't matter the gender that you're coaching. Right?
That's right.
Women can coach the men as well. So I can't wait for that day. But thank you, Dawn, for paving the way for the women that are going to be coming behind her. And I can only imagine now that she is at that point, and you mentioned the disparity between the male coaches and the female coaches, that I'm sure, in her mind, right? Because she's a woman leader, we can already tell. I'm sure that in her mind, she's probably thinking about, okay, now how can I make this better? If not for me, for the people that are coming behind me. So
exactly.
Kudos to Dawn Staley. Get it, girl.
Yes.
Yes, we love it. We love it. So you guys, while we are waiting for our wonderful guest, her name is Sarai Namor. She is a licensed mental health counselor. So she will be joining us for this conversation tonight. But while we are waiting for her to join us on the show, we're going to go into the segment. So your very own reset coach has a segment for you guys tonight, and we're going to be talking about body types. I want you guys to get out your pens and your pads, because we're going to do a little body type test. Yes, we are. I see you over there, Shishi. We're going to do a little body type test.
I'm ready.
Brandy's ready. Mimi's ready. Shima, get it together. Get it ready. Yes, we are going to go to this segment very, very shortly. But before we do, boom, another commercial is coming up for you guys. Here we go. Hey, everybody, and we are back. So before we start this segment, I just wanted to let you guys see this, where you can donate for our very own Shima Shishi Talks as well. www.wenextshima.com. We're not forgetting about that as well. So you guys go on there, make sure that you donate. All right, here we go into the segment, you guys. So listen, most of you guys may or may not know that there is such a thing called a body type. And why is knowing your body type important? Well, it's important because it'll help you work with your body instead of against your body. It allows you to learn how to metabolize your macronutrients. And what are your macronutrients? They're your carbs, your fat, and your protein. Okay. And those are the three things that you need that are essential for your body to help you burn calories and build muscle. So we're going to get right into this test. All right. So the best way to know your body type is to know your BMI, to understand your body fat, your bone mass, and your muscle mass. However, you can do a test that will help you. Okay. So let's get into the test. So you guys, for the first question, I want you to just put down A, B, or C when I give you the multiple choice answers. Okay, so what seems to be more prominent in your body? Is it A, bone? Is it B, muscle? Or is it C, body fat? Just write that down and keep that there. And I hope that the ladies here on FEM Talk are going to give you their answers once we know what they are, what the body type is based on these questions. So the second question is, how do your shoulders compare to your hips? Is it A, that your shoulders are more narrow than your hips? Is it that they are the same? Or is it C, that your shoulders are wider than your hips? All right, so I'll give you guys a moment and then we're going on to the third question. And I hope the audience out there, I hope you are doing the same. So for the third question, which object best describes your shape? Is it A, a pencil? Is it B, an hourglass? Or is it C, a pear? All right, and put your answers down. Going into the next question, we have 10 questions, so we're going to go through pretty quickly. So if you encircle your wrist with your thumb and your finger, right? So you're doing this, you're encircling your wrist. Does your thumb and your finger overlap? Does it barely touch? Or is there space in between? Okay, and that's C. All right, moving on to the next question. What best describes your weight history? Is it A, you've had trouble gaining muscle or body fat? Is it B, you can gain and lose weight without difficulty? Or is it C, you gain weight easily and have a hard time losing it? Next question, you guys. Question number 6. What did your body look like once you reached full height? Was it A, long and lanky? Was it B, strong and compact? Or was it C, soft and full body? And I'll give you a moment. And here we go into question number 7. If you exercise regularly and stopped for a few months, what would happen to your body? Would it A, lose muscle and strength quickly? Would it B, it wouldn't change much at all? Or would it C, soften significantly and you may gain weight? All right, that's number 7. Going on to number 8. Here we go. So if you put a pair of your tight jeans on, where would they be most fitted? Would it be A, can't keep them up without a belt? Would it be B, you have to wiggle yourself into them and over your muscular thighs? Or would it be C, that they got caught either on your backside or your belly? All right, and moving on to the next question. This is question number 9, so we are almost there. When you have a carb feast, how do you feel afterwards? Is it A, the same and normal? Is it B, good, but your abs are hard and your belly feels full? Or is it C, that you feel tired, fatigued, and or bloated? All right, and we are moving on to question number 10. This is the last question. So how would you describe your bone structure? Is it A, a small frame? Is it B, a medium frame? Or is it C, a large frame? So I'm actually going to show you guys a picture of the body types, okay? So you can see the different body types now. And then we're going to talk about what that quiz meant for these different body types. So here we go. Can you guys see that? All right, so the first body type is an ectomorph. So if you had mostly A's, you are an ectomorph. If you had mostly B's, you are a mesomorph. And if you had mostly C's, you are an endomorph. Now, there are some overlaps that happen with these body types. So it doesn't mean that you are stuck into one body type, but you should be mostly one of these body types, and then there may be some overlap. So I'm going to let the ladies of FEM Talk come back in, and they're going to tell us what they are. So I can give you mine before I bring them in. So I am mostly an ectomorph, but I'm a little bit of a mix between an ecto and a meso. Once you get down into it, once you get a little bit deeper into it, I'm a mix between an ecto and a mesomorph. So let me bring the ladies back in, and we are going to talk about what they think they are in terms of their body type. We have Brandy the Connector. We have Melissa Girl Boss Up. And we have Shima She Talks. All right. Who is willing to go first and tell us which of these body types that we are showing on the screen, what do you think you are based on your answers to those questions?
I got a question.
I gotta put my glasses off for a minute.
Who was number 6?
The question number 6?
Yes.
Let me tell
Full
you, question
height.
number 6 was, what did your body look like once you reached full height? Was it A, long and lanky? Was it B, strong and compact? Or was it C, soft and full body?
Okay.
And we
Ready
got
to answer now.
comments going on out there. Kathy was saying, I'm ready. And we've got Felisa Houston out there. Hey, my dear, thank you for joining us on FEM Talk tonight. Yes. So I hope you guys were joining in on that and writing down your answers to your different body types.
I may have missed a few of the questions.
And Felisa says C. All right. All right. So C, you are an endomorph.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
So that picture again.
I'll go, Miss Tracy, reset coach. I don't know if it's fortunate or unfortunate, but I'm an endomorph.
Okay. No, there is no fortunate or unfortunate to either of those. It really is just to help you understand how you need to mix your food. So depending on your body type, you need either a little more carbs or a little more fat. The protein is usually the same. I mean, sorry, not the protein. The fat is usually the same. The carbs and the protein is usually different between the two. So it's really just to help you understand the mix of that. So if you're an ectomorph, you usually need more carbs because you usually want to gain more weight. So you need more carbs to help your body burn, and you want to burn based on the carbs that you're putting in versus what your body is storing. So that's usually how it works. The mesomorph is kind of like right in the middle. So they're right in the middle with the protein and carbs. And then the endomorph, a little less carbs and a little more protein. So that's usually how it works. So it's really just to help you understand how you're going to metabolize your food.
That makes sense to me. I'm definitely that man. I tend to gain a lot of weight when I eat more carbs.
Okay.
And I have to limit my carbs and put more protein in the mix.
Yeah. Okay. And see,
I'm
with
a meso
too, you have to know like when you're burning, right? But depending on how you're exercising, what type of movement you're getting, you also need to put that into the mix as well, because then you may need a little more carbs, a little less carbs, a little more protein. And so it depends. It depends on, your activity versus your food. And then you can determine, okay, what do I need to bring in so that I can metabolize more and burn more calories?
We have a lot of C's in the audience.
We do have a lot of C's in the audience. And I know a lot of these people. So I'm like, I don't know if you guys are really C's. I think
I'm a meso. I'm a mesomorph with leaning towards the endo, but I'm mostly meso. And I don't think I was ever an ectomorph. I might have been like when I was younger, but like as I got into my late 20s and 30s, I was a solid mesomorph. I'm getting towards endo because I have a hard time sometimes balancing my carbs versus my proteins and other nutrients. But I will say I thrive like when I focus mostly on proteins and still put in my fruits and vegetables. I lose weight and gain muscle quickly.
Yeah, very nice. So, and that's what you need to know too. It is also, you notice that there was a question in there asking about history because your body has memory, right? Particularly your muscles. So it also pertains to some of your history as well. How were you? They asked that question about how were you when you got to full height? Because then you should have been a full grown adult. And that's basically your body type right there, right? And then lifestyle is what changes that body type. It's not necessarily what your body naturally is. It's what your lifestyle kind of designates to your body. So you want to make sure that you are understanding where you were, where you are now, and then what you need to take in and what you need to do in terms of movement to be able to burn calories and metabolize faster. So thank you guys.
I'm assuming medical changes in your body changes that too, or no? Is it affected by? Okay,
absolutely. So, and you just asked that question, and Felisa just put up here menopause, right? So menopause, we know, changes the body dramatically, right? Our hormones are out of whack, or we're losing hormones, really, and we're not regulated, and it starts to change the body. And a lot of times, women gain weight with menopause, so that matters as well. So you have to understand where you are in your life to be able to decide how you want to proceed with your wellness plan, so to speak.
I agree with Brandy when she said, the stages of life, you were at one of the others at all stages of your life. So
because I was through ecto for a very long time, and now I'm moving into ecto meso. Where I am now. I think like part of the top half of me is like meso, the bottom half is ecto. So
my whole body shifted to meso. I used to be an ecto, like a solid ecto. Like I was nothing but a giant muscle at one point in time. But like I don't believe that was my true body type, because as a gymnast, my true body type was dramatically different than it would have been just not being as athletic as I was at that point in time. So I think my true body state is the mesomorph.
Yeah. And one of the questions I wanted to ask was really number one is the one I stumbled on, or I couldn't figure out, because you asked about that mix of, is your body, are you more muscle than you are fat? And it depends on the part of my body. Like, my downward part, I'm mostly muscle. I have a lot of muscle, and it's when I get to the tummy area and that the muscle kind of goes away. But again, it was a little bit, that was a hard one for me. Maybe other people saw the same thing, similar to what you said, Brandy. And I think it was a mix in terms of where the muscles are.
So when you think about it from that perspective too, you need to know your BMI, right? Your body mass index. So it'll tell you full body, right? And even like there's a machine that some really good gyms have that'll tell you what your BMI is, and it'll tell you your water weight, your muscle mass, and your body fat, right? So and then you'll be able to determine, and it tells you from each side of your body too, which is pretty cool. It's really cool. It's a really cool machine, but it'll tell you for each side of your body like where you are, and then you'll understand like, okay, what do I need to do? And it may show more muscle on your left side, on your legs, or your right side legs, maybe even if you think like, okay, I got more muscle down below, but then at the top, my shape is different. That's why I said I feel like my top half of my body is one thing and the bottom half is something else. So yeah, it's pretty interesting. But definitely, you guys, if anybody needs help with this, reach out to me. I am your reset coach. I can help you get your body together based on your body type and help you learn what you need to eat and how you need to move your body to either lose weight or gain weight, either one. All right, so we have some more people that joined us. So I just wanted to recognize them. We have Bernadine Johnson. Hey, Bernadine, thank you for joining us. So nice to stop by. We have Kim McGuire. Hey, Kimmy, thank you for joining us. Thank you, you guys. And we have Alicia Stroud joining us as well. Hey, Alicia. That's good to see everybody. Yes, and Felicia had a question out there. How does cosmetic surgery factor in? That's a good question. It depends on what that is putting into your body. So if it's giving you more water weight, if it's giving you more muscle, it just depends on what surgery you had. If it's reducing your fat content, so it really depends on what surgery you had. So you have to just decide, okay, well, what did I get, and what am I doing to either reduce the fat in my body and build muscle after that surgery, and then you'll be able to determine where you are. But that's why a BMI test is really good. So like I said, if you don't get a blood test, you can go to a gym that has a BMI machine, and it will definitely tell you where you are in terms of your BMI.
Yay!
Yay!
Great segment.
Thank you, you guys. Thank you for taking the test, and thank you for sharing your results on this test with everybody out there.
Well, this is FEM Talk. We talk about everything here.
That's right. Yes.
Good deal.
All right, you guys.
Good deal.
So our main topic tonight is actually mental health. Right? We are talking about mental health tonight. We are closing out October's Women's Health Month here on FEM Talk with mental health. So we want to get into this. We do have a guest that's joining us who is a professional in this area, and she focuses on mental health in particular. But I wanted to just give some definitions, and we can give her a recap when she comes back on. She did have another engagement, but she is a wonderful person. She has a lot of experience in this area, has been doing this for about 20 years now, so well versed in the subject of mental health. But I wanted to just give you guys the definition. And the definition that I got from the CDC was emotional, psychological, and social well-being. And it said it determines how we handle stress and relate to others and make healthy choices in our life. and it is important at every stage in our life. So from the time you are, a toddler to an adult, mental health is important, right? So there was another definition out there that said cognitive, behavioral, and emotional well-being, and it says how people think, feel, and behave is mental health. And the one thing that they kept mentioning is the absence of some visible issue doesn't necessarily mean that you're mentally healthy. So I thought that was interesting that when you look this up, it's what they tell you, that you're not necessarily mentally healthy, even if you don't see something that
healthy or unhealthy.
Well, healthy. It says it doesn't mean that you are mentally healthy if there's not something visibly wrong, right? So if I don't know that you're depressed, if I can't see that you're depressed, doesn't mean that you're actually mentally healthy. Exactly. Yeah. So we have our very special guest in the green room here. We want to bring her in. We just started this conversation, and we're going to let the expert speak for her.
Yeah.
Her name is Sarai Namor. Like I said, she is a licensed mental health counselor, and she has been in this business for over 20 years. So let her come on, and we will get into this discussion. Sarai! Hello. Welcome back.
Queen bees. I love you guys. You guys are like the coolest women on Facebook. I swear. You guys are like the bomb.
Thank you
for saying that.
Thank you.
Thank you for that. Thank you.
Brandy's like, yes, I accept it all.
Brandy's giving herself some cool points, right, Brandy? Brandy is the best, you guys. She is the best. She is the best. So, you guys, we just started this conversation, Sarai, and I was just giving everyone here on FEM Talk that joined us the definition of mental health as it says on the CDC website. So it said emotional, psychological, and social well-being, and it determines how we handle stress, relate to others, and make healthy choices. And it's important at every stage in life. And then I think the World Health Organization had cognitive, behavioral, and emotional well-being, and how people think, feel, and behave. So those are the definitions that we got. But I wanted to get into this conversation. I was saying to the ladies before we brought you in that on all of the websites and all the information that I was looking at, it said it doesn't mean that you are necessarily mentally healthy if you can't visibly see that something's wrong. Right.
It doesn't mean that you are mentally healthy if you can't see. Well, that's absolutely true for, like, I'll give you an example. I mean, do you want me to start talking now?
Yeah, go for it.
I'll give you an example of where that's true. That's true for people with narcissistic tendencies or traits. So you can't even diagnose someone with narcissistic personality disorder if they don't think that their symptoms cause a problem for them. So for example, you have to come and say, hey, look, this and this and this is happening and I'm suffering because of it. So if the person with a narcissistic personality doesn't say I am suffering and losing because of it, then you can't even diagnose them. They're just someone with traits. So we can't even say they have the disorder, even though they're causing this disorder in your life. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Wow. So I can imagine that our former First Lady probably wanted to do a diagnosis on someone, but we'll leave that alone. But
that's a great example.
When you think about that word, though, that is the example that always comes to mind first for me after our last presidency. Yes. So we're gonna leave that right there. That's another FEM Talk show.
That's a perfect example.
I wanted to just ask you and go through some of the different disorders that are mentioned when it comes to mental health. So there are mood disorders, which are things like depression and bipolar, anxiety disorders, personality disorders, psychotic disorders, which is something like schizophrenia, eating disorders, trauma-related disorders, and substance abuse disorders. So if you could, kind of go through some of those, talk to us about, what to look for, what they actually mean, right? First of all, and then what to look for in people that are suffering with some of these disorders. So you can take it one by one, start with wherever you want.
All right. So That's a lot. That's a lot. But I'm gonna start off with let me just do it more globally. So globally, for someone to be diagnosed with a disorder, it has to be that they meet all the criteria for all the symptoms, but that's not enough. So it also has to be like, for example, you could be someone who has a hard time concentrating. You might have low self-esteem. You might feel depressed sometimes, but you're functioning at home, school, work, and everything. So at that point, you would not be someone who would be diagnosed with a disorder, because one of the qualifiers is that it has to be affecting your level of functioning. And level of functioning is what happens at home, what happens at work, what happens, like for kids, it would be school. What happens like legally, are you being for substance abuse? It has to be that it's affecting your work or home. It's affecting your finances. You're maybe getting arrested. So legally, it's also being affected. I've been having this. I've been having a cough for a few days, so sorry.
Sure.
Let me clear my throat. I'm gonna be doing this the whole time.
That's fine.
But
we'll drink with you.
We drink on this show.
Starlet in my office is sick, so I'm like, she better have not made me sick. But so the whole point with that is that you could have, when you're looking at someone like in your family, they might have symptoms, but it really becomes a diagnosis when it's also affecting their level of functioning, which most of the time it is, if your symptoms are severe enough. But we all experience sadness. We all experience some level of anxiety or worry. But it's really not a diagnosis unless it's affecting our functioning.
Now, what if you have someone who just completely internalizes everything? And they don't necessarily speak out, but they could be depressed and still functioning, but that depression lasts, right? Like it just continues, but it's something that is internal. Then how do you get to that person? Like you think about people that take their own lives, and maybe they were suffering from something that people just did not see. And it could have been over a long time span, but you just don't know it. Like, but they're still going to school or going to work. They're still functioning. What do you do in those cases? Or how do you even try to figure out like what's going on with a person who is very quiet?
All right, so people who internalize, if they really have a disorder, you're gonna notice it again in the level of functioning. You're gonna still notice that they're having trouble at home with their wife or their husband. Or if they're a kid, they're having trouble with their parents. So you're always gonna notice something affecting their level of functioning. And as far as suicide goes, I mean, in my life, I know 3 people that have committed suicide. Actually, one of them was a therapist that worked at my agency. He committed suicide, and he was the happiest person before he committed suicide. And it's because he already decided to commit suicide. So he was happy. So when there's people who want to commit suicide, who will let you know, and that might be a cry for help. But there's also a set of people who are determined, and that's what they want to do. And to be honest, it is an option for everyone. Everyone has an option. Everyone could do that. So it is a choice. It is an option. There are people that really have decided to do it. And for example, the therapist that worked at my agency, he was really happy for like a whole week. He was extra happy, and that was probably why. But that's not really the norm. The norm is that people usually do reach out. People usually do tell you, hey, I need help. Hey, I want to get a therapist. I'm not feeling really good. But then we don't pay attention to those things. And then that's where things happen. And then at the same time, we can't control everything.
Right.
So, whenever there's a death involved, whether it's suicide or anything, it's just a natural reaction to go back and say, what could I have done? If I would have called, if I would have done this, if I would have done that. And at the end of the day, there are those cases where people ask for help and no one pays attention. But then there's a lot of other cases where people don't ask for help and it really came out of nowhere. It was where it's shocking.
I have a question. So I've known a couple of people that you have people that attempt suicide that are crying for help. And then you have people that they were really trying to off themselves. Like they put a gun in their mouth and everything and survived. But one of the common things that I've heard from a couple of these people is as soon as they pulled the trigger, they regretted it. What's the percentage of people that like actually go for it and live that when they think about what they did, they were like, holy crap, I don't actually want to die.
Wow.
I mean, I don't know the percentage, but people attempt suicide for a lot of different reasons. Like some people, when you have a personality disorder and it's your desperate way of, like, it's a very inner child way of crying for help. You might attempt suicide, but you didn't really mean it. You were just I mean, I hate to say it that way, pretending, but it's like you almost commit suicide, but you really don't. And it's like you really want people to notice your pain. That's like one group of people. Then there's people who really struggle to stay alive. There's people who struggle, who it's a daily battle for today not to be the day that they off themselves. So it's like we can't box people into just one category because there's all different kinds of people and different reasons why people why people commit suicide. But there are people who miss the shot, like you said, and they're really pissed off that they missed the shot. Like they're really pissed. They're like, why did that happen? Why am I still alive? And then there's the people who are like, I got saved for a reason. Like I should have been dead and I wasn't. And then they find their life all over again. So it's like, it just depends.
Yeah. Wow.
I guess that would also question the ones who do want to live, eventually, or people, period, whether you thinking about committing suicide or not. Where is that line, that fine line that helps you stay mentally healthy or stay on the side? I want to be here, but things are just horrible. And I've had people have thoughts of not being here. So what do you suggest to people who are, I guess, borderline or teetering, not so much with suicide, but thinking that this is just too hard to maintain a healthy mental state?
And let me address that too, because there are people who are in so much pain that the only out that they see is to commit suicide. So there are people like that too, that they're just in those are the ones that I'm telling you that are like in a daily battle for their life in their head. And for those people, I want to say, like, there is hope, and a lot of times it's finding a different circle of people. It's finding the support that's actually going to support you. Finding a therapist, a qualified therapist. Just really doing that, because some people just get to a level of so much helplessness and hopelessness that they're pretty much in despair. And it really is like a moment of despair that people make the biggest mistakes. And if someone could just intervene right in that moment, it's just really a moment, because a lot of times it's just like a moment where they're in despair and they don't see any way out. And then, and if someone could intervene, like a lot of times people have intervened in those moments and people are like, they get the help that they need. But then people don't, like at my agency, for example, we used to, like years ago, we used to pick up patients and we used to pick them up in a van and whatever. And one of our drivers, when he went to pick up a patient, right in that moment he walked in and the guy has shot himself. Like right in the moment that he got picked up, and and what happened was that he was really angry with someone in the house, and he ran to the room, and in a matter of like 2-3 seconds, he got pissed off, went to the room and shot himself and killed himself. And that was just a moment where he lost touch with the reality.
And then talk about that from the other side too, because here you have this person, your driver, who's going to get this person so that they can get the help that they need. Talk about the trauma that now the driver has to live with.
The driver and all the patients that were in the car, in the van.
Yeah. Talk about that type of trauma too, because that happens, right? Like, so events happen that make life traumatizing for people, and then that puts them into a state of mental disarray, right? Like,
that's like secondhand smoke. So that's like secondhand trauma. That's trauma that we get from, which that trauma could be just as bad too. Like you could also have PTSD from that. You could also have all the same symptoms of re-experiencing and have all the mood, everything happen to you. So, but it really just depends on how the person. Two people could be in the same room and see the same thing, and one will develop PTSD and the other one will create a whole other meaning, an empowering meaning to the situation. So it really depends. But some people could just take it as to have PTSD, it doesn't have to be that your life is in danger. It could be that something happened to Tracy. Tracy told me the story, and I'm traumatized by your life being in danger, and so something happening to you or me witnessing it. So yeah, we could all experience that.
Yes.
Melissa and I were talking about that yesterday. Not that it was an actual dramatic situation like that, but when you watch certain things or you witness certain things, you almost internalize them. They haven't happened to you, but you sympathize so heavily with the person and what they're going through and what their mindset is that it feels like you too are doing or going through the situation. And that is traumatizing.
And you know what happens, that we our imagination is so incredible, but it's incredible in producing things that are good for us, but it's also incredible in producing like things that are hurtful for us. So like, for example, in my agency, we have like parents, like moms that have a long history of being sexually abused and stuff like that. And then they say the story so much to their kids that then the kids feel it's almost as if it happened to the kids, and it's even worse. Or for example, because we do a lot, like we work a lot with foster kids and that sort of thing. So we have parents that had a fight in the other room, but the kid heard screaming, pushing, things falling. Yeah. So in the kid's mind, it was like a murder scene, and it really wasn't that in the other room. Because your imagination could especially if you're a kid, your imagination could really get away with you, because we have a very vivid imagination. And then that kid could have PTSD from something he imagined, and it never really happened.
Yeah. I have to stop you for a minute, only because I see this young woman, Yari, out there. And I just wanted to address what she's saying, right? And maybe you can speak directly to her, because she's in between PTSD and empowerment. So it's like maybe she's right there. Yeah, and she's moving. So, speak to her a little bit about, maybe what she can do to push herself over to that other side of empowerment, to put that trauma, behind her, if you will. So speak to her for a moment.
So I happen to know Yadi. Hi, Yadi. She was good friends with my brother. But if you're between PTSD and empowerment, I would say get the right help that you need to take your power back. Because when we have PTSD, we really lose so much of our power. I always tell everyone, I'm a survivor of complex PTSD, meaning PTSD from childhood. And it took me many years to get my power back. It took me many years, because it's just a journey. Like when they say it's a journey, it's really a journey. Like it just really is. It's a never-ending journey. Taking some of your power could take a whole year, and then every year you take a little bit more, and in a different way. So it's really about taking back your power. And if you don't know how to do that, then get the help that you need, and be courageous enough to face your demon. Be courageous enough to see how you're holding yourself in these situations where you're giving up your power. You know what I mean? Because my childhood was my childhood, but as soon as I was 21 and I moved away, I created a whole big mess for myself, and I did that to myself because I was still experiencing a lot of the mood issues, like panic attacks and all this fear. And so the fear kept me in bad situations, as I was afraid to change the situation, because I wanted stability. So my little box of stability was really a big mess. But as long as I have my stability, as long as I had it, it didn't matter if it was a mess.
You thought it was good.
We do these things to ourselves, and we have to do our inner work. We have to do the inner work. We have to do all this, especially, depending on if your traumas from childhood. It's different to have childhood trauma than to be 30 years old and you had a car accident and flew out the window, and now you have PTSD because of that one incident.
Right.
It's very different.
Yeah.
If you have PTSD from childhood, your spiritual world got destroyed, your mental world, your emotional world, even your physical world. You were violated at many different levels if it comes from childhood. So that's a very different thing.
Yeah. Wow. I'm gonna break really quickly for a commercial, but I wanted to just say to you to think about when we come back to talk about how to even recognize when you need help. And because you just now said some differences between like when you have PTSD from childhood versus PTSD from some event that happened. So, how do you as a child get help if the parent, well, hopefully the parents, right, will recognize that you need that help? Or how do you now become 21 and recognize that you need help to get help? How do you seek that help? So I want you to, when we come back, just to talk to people about how to go about seeking the help that they need based on their traumatic experiences. So here we go, you guys. We're going to go to commercial break and come back in. All right, and we are back. Wonderful commercial break that we just had. That was the Power of We Symposium. I will actually be there April 28th this year. So you guys get your tickets, come out, support the kids. They raise money to help kids in the inner cities, just so they can go to college, so they can start businesses, so they can do the things that they need to do to live healthy and progressive lives. So support the Power of We Symposium. And I hope to see you guys there in April. And we're going to bring Shima back in, and then we are going to get started back on this. So we asked that question before we went to break. If everybody is just joining us, we are talking about mental health. And we were just talking before the break about how to know when to seek help when you're going through PTSD. So we have some comments that are out there. Felisa says, fear will paralyze you for life. Yes. That is so true. If you let it. So that's why we have Sanae here to talk to us about how to get over those fears, how to get over the things that are paralyzing you. Yari says, it's a journey. I don't mind sharing. The reason was domestic. What helped me was helping others. Amen. Right. Amen to that. Yari, thank you for that. Kathy says, yes, I know that this is true. You guys, we just thank you for your comments out there. Thank you for just joining us here again on FEM Talk. We have Philip McCormick again. Philip has been here engaging with us on FEM Talk. So thank you so much. Self-destructive ideas, acting out on self-destructive behaviors, desperation, self-idolization, planning how to hurt yourself, in your pain. Those are warning signs. We appreciate that, Philip. We appreciate your time on that. And that is so true as well. So we're going to go back to our wonderful expert who is here, Sarai, and to talk to us about how to identify when you need help.
Okay. So I'm going to cluster it into 3 parts. So how to identify when a person needs help? It's in 3 areas, because we experience life in 3 areas. We experience life in our mind, we experience life in our emotions, and in what we do with life, right? And act out in life. So if someone is if we're looking at the mind, if someone is consistently negative, if someone is consistently saying how terrible their life is, and the key word here is consistently. So the more someone lives in that negative space in their mind, then it's going to obviously affect their emotions. So if I'm saying, oh my God, my life is terrible, it sucks, I hate to wake up in the morning, I don't have anything to wake up to, everything is so bad, and you say saying that, then obviously I'm going to be like shrinking myself, and I'm not going to feel good. I'm going to feel depressed. I'm going to feel like there's no reason to live. I'm going to have all kinds of emotions. I might have panic attacks. I might feel overwhelmed all the time. So the more severe these symptoms are, like imagine it on a scale, right? On a scale, or not a scale, but well, let's say a scale, because I can't think of the other word. But imagine on a scale, if someone sometimes says, you know what, things aren't going well for me, That's very different from someone waking up every day saying life is terrible, nothing ever goes good for me. So the warning signs is, how is the person thinking, how is the person consistently feeling, and then what is the person doing? If someone is all day long in bed and doesn't get out of bed, if someone isn't eating, if someone isn't doing things that are like quote unquote normal, which is where it affects your level of functioning, if someone's fighting all the time with the people that they most care about. So I wrote like several areas of life, like, so relationships. If someone is thinking all these negative things and they're feeling terrible, and then they're fighting all the time with the people that they care about, or treating badly, because it's also being abusive and treating bad the people that supposedly they love or their family. If someone is going to work and getting fired all the time and they can't hold down their job because of the way that they're behaving or thinking or talking or feeling. If someone is consistently affecting their health, like they're doing substance abuse, or they're not eating at all and they're anorexic, like these are the ways that anything extreme and consistent is a red flag to try to get the person help.
I love that piece, extreme and consistent. And I know a lot of us have seen that. Another question I had, similar to Tracy's question, especially being in this pandemic, what I've heard and seen over and over again is anxiety. And people suffering with anxiety, saying, I'm just so anxious, I'm just so nervous, I'm just so scared, I'm just so, and it just goes on and on. What are some of those signs, and how do we help ourselves to pull out of this anxious feeling that so many people have? Even anxious about, one of the things that I had to like really come to terms with was death. And just that constant, well, this person passed away, now this person passed away. And I noticed myself kind of dwelling mentally on death all of a sudden. And how do you deal with like just the effects of this pandemic, and how do you like get over some of those things?
So that's a tough question for me to answer. But I guess what I want to say is, it becomes like a vicious cycle, because then you don't know what came first. Is it the feeling of anxiety, or is it the worry and the anxious thoughts? It becomes like this circular thing where it just one feeds the other, and then you don't even know where it began. You just feel like a ball of anxiety and panic. And if you were able to intervene in any one of those areas, if you were able to switch your anxiety to gratitude. So it's really about doing the intentional effort of switching either your emotion or your thought. So if you're thinking anxious thought of the times, then on purpose, think about what's going well. Think about what you're grateful for. And it's really about being intentional. And that's what a lot of people don't do. They, a lot of times we want like a magical answer, and there's nothing magical. It's just being intentional and making the decision to wake up in the morning and say, I'm tired of feeling this way and thinking this way, and I'm going to, and then just make a list. Wake up in the morning, make a list of everything you're grateful for. So switch the anxiety for gratitude, switch the thoughts. So you have to intervene in one of those two areas. Like, for example, if I have a client that comes in with something like that, they're either saying, I'm feeling so anxious all the time and I'm having panic attacks. So they're either talking to me about their emotion, or they're talking to me about, I can't stop worrying, I can't stop thinking about this. It's all the time in my head, right? So wherever they're presenting is where I intervene. So if you're the type of person that's talking more about your emotion, then I'll say, okay, let's think about some things you're grateful for. And or if they start talking to me about their behavior, like if they'll say like, I felt so anxious that I had to get up and run, and I felt my palms sweaty and my heartbeat was racing and I had to go. So then at that point I will intervene with their body, and I'll say, okay, let's do some deep breathing. So everyone's different. Some of us live in our emotions, some of us live in our mind, some of us are more kinetic and we live out of our body. So you intervene wherever you're living out of. So are you living more out of your mind, out of your, and that's the best thing to remember is we experience life through our mind, through our emotions, or through our actions. So and do you notice that? Do you guys notice that people either talk to you about one of those three things?
And it's all
that's where you interject.
I love that.
Yeah, me too. I was just gonna say, when you talked about that, I was thinking about too, like just telling people not to go numb. You know what I mean? Because sometimes we take what's happening as the norm, right? Or okay, this is how it's supposed to be. It's not.
Right.
So the fact that you're intentional about, finding things that you're grateful for, or, okay, now do some deep breathing, depending on where it's coming from, but just don't go numb and feel like, okay, well, this is now the status quo, so I'm numb to it, and then you don't really deal with it. So oh God, I love that you said that, because
and I'm gonna be completely transparent. I sometimes have a problem not completely becoming apathetic to some of the effed up things that happen around us on a regular basis. Like, it happens so often, like I'll observe it and I'll be like,
it becomes, you get used to it.
I would either get very angry, or I would completely withdraw and focus on the things I'm working on so hard that I just tuned it all out.
Wow.
But one of the things I still do, because there are a lot of things that I want to impact, but in order to impact, there are things that I have to line up and achieve and elevate in my own life in order to be in a position to do so. So sometimes when I see things happening that are obviously wrong in nature, depending on your perspective of what's right and what's wrong, I actually turn it into motivation to continue driving myself towards the things that I know I want to achieve in order to impact the things I know I can over time.
And that's great. That's great that you said that, Brandy, because I was about to, when you were saying about how you become apathetic, what you're really saying is you feel helpless about the situation, so you just like, you let go, right? And I was going to tell you, okay, then we need to build up the muscle of the opposite, which is empowerment. But you said it. You already said it. You said that that's what you do. So
that's how I keep myself driving forward and don't allow myself to get again hopeless, because
it's almost getting outside
no purpose. Hopelessness and despair serve no purpose to the positive impact that you can have just by leading by example. I gotta remember, people are looking at me. The youth that I work with in my ministry are looking at me. People that tune into the show are looking at me, and I'd rather lead by example than sit here with a smile on my face, pretend like everything's all right. No, sometimes everything is not all right, but that's part of the process. If everything was okay all of the time, then I wouldn't appreciate life the way I would when I get challenged by things that don't go my way sometimes.
Yeah, that's good. I wanted to just address Kathy here, because we're talking about empowerment, and I know Sarai was going to talk to Brandy about empowerment. So, Kathy, great for you for leaving your abuser, for breaking that cycle that you saw from your mom, and for getting the help that you needed. That's what this is all about. So I just wanted to, just address that. We have some more comments out there too. Yari says, exchange anxiety to positivity. Love that. Absolutely love that. We've got Philip out there talking to someone, talking to your therapist. That's right. It helps you change your thoughts, then your emotions become brighter, and you're able to change your perspective on that problem. We love it. Love it. We've got Anjanette saying, yes, I agree. To be thankful for every morning is anew. That's for sure.
Anjanette. That's beautiful. And one of the things that when we talk about, the anxiety, I know one of the things when I saw myself just through the COVID, it just, to me, it just like magnified even my own personality and some of the, like you said, things that I was struggling with. And to your point, Sarai, one of the things I started doing is finding my joy every day. Whatever joy was, if it was, watching friends and laughing over things I've seen before, if it was taking that walk. I mean, today I took a walk with, my puppy, and, we just walked down the street and started laughing. Finding joy for me was, to your point, one of the ways that I learned to come out of the anxiousness, come out of the fear, even not dwelling, appreciating life. So not dealing on the death, even though we experienced so much of that, but really appreciating life even that much more. Saying I love you before I get off the phone was intentional to make sure people knew I wasn't, I loved them, and not regretting, not saying it anymore, not regretting not talking to them. So things like that.
Well, you guys, this has been another episode of FEM Talk. Unfortunately, I know we are all into this conversation because it's so good as usual, but just want to say we appreciate everyone out there. Absolutely. Be sure to join us next Tuesday evening here on E360 TV or on the Facebook page. You guys can find us on Amazon Amazon Fire Stick, Roku, Android TV, Apple TV, and on the E360 app. We appreciate all of you out there. Thank
Yes,
you
we
so much
do.
for joining this conversation. And we are out, you guys, until next Tuesday. Thank you, Sadai E. You are amazing. Thank you for being
Thank you guys. Thank you for having me again.
Thank you guys. Take care, everybody.
Bye.